Well, did you enjoy your break? I know I did, and I'm looking forward to installing the drawers. It's time to put in the drawer slide hardware. But first, I'm going to change into a little grubbier shirt. You'll see why in just a second.
Well, nobody will ever accuse me of not getting close to my work. I'm actually inside the outfeed table right now. I've put the rear brackets on for the drawer slides, and now I'm just installing the drawer slides into the brackets and attaching them at the front face frame. I've got one drawer installed just to see how it's going to look, and I really like this overextension slide so you can get all the way into the back of the drawer. So I think this is going to work out pretty good.
Now with the drawers installed, I'm ready to put the decorative drawer fronts on. I've been milling this stock. I've put a decorative edge around. I didn't want to have drawer pulls. I wanted to keep the front of this piece clean and not have any protrusions. So I've also milled in a finger pull ledge where you can just put your fingers under the edge of the drawer face and pull the drawer out. So now all we got to do is attach these drawer faces and we're ready to start putting a finish on this. I want to put the large drawer face on first. That way I can key these other three drawer faces off of that one to get everything symmetrical and looking right. So what I've done is I've taken a straight piece of wood and I've clamped it in position to give me the coverage that I'm looking for on this overlay drawer front. I've also put a couple of tick marks on either side to get my side to side dimension correct. Then what I will do is I'll put double stick tape on here and I'll line this up on this board, line up with my tick mark, and press it on to the double stick tape. Once that's attached, I'll carefully slide the drawer out, put a couple of clamps on it to hold it good, and then I'll go in from behind with wood screws and attach the face permanently. And there we go. All right, to drill the pilot holes to attach the drawer faces to the drawer boxes, I'm going to use my little handy dandy drawer attachment spacer. And this does a couple of things. First of all, it makes sure that my screws are symmetrically placed. And the more important thing that it does is that by adjusting the depth of the bit in the chuck, you can actually adjust the depth that you drill. And what I've done is I've set this to drill the pilot hole 5/8 of an inch deep. So I'm going to put my little block down here, and first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drill my pilot hole. Then I'm going to countersink that hole. And then I'll just drive in. This is a number 8 by 3/4 inch wood screw. And there we go. All right, there's one more little task before starting to sand and apply the finish. on the outfeed table, and that's to cut miter slot extension slots into the top of the outfeed table. As you slide either a sled or the miter gauge through and go past the saw blade, the miter gauge will actually extend out past the back of the saw, and it just needs a place to go. So what I did was I set the table exactly where it'll be when it's in use, and I took this straight edge and lined it up with one side of the miter slot and drew a line. Then I lined it up with the other side of the miter slot and drew a line, and I did the same thing over here. That gives me the position that I want for the miter slot extensions. Now I've made this little jig. Just put this together real quick with some pieces of plywood. These are 2 strips of plywood. The slot inside is going to give me a 7/8 inch wide slot here in the table. Now, of course, the miter slots are 3/4 inch wide, but these can be bigger. Just make sure that it doesn't bind and that it can slide in there easily. I've also cut in these tapers so that as the miter slot slides in, even if the table is slightly misaligned with the top of the saw, the miter sled runner can just go right in here. Now this will clamp onto the side of the table. The router will follow this. I'm going to use a guide bearing bit, and we're going to cut this about 3/8 of an inch deep, which will accommodate any of the sled runners that I have. You could cut it a little bit deeper, but I think that'll be plenty for my purposes. All right, so I think we're ready to go. Okay, now before everybody freaks out, I'm not going to use the dust collection attachment on the router, and the reasons for that is because it makes it a little bit more difficult to see when I'm trying to follow a template. But I am going to wear my dust protection, and I will be turning on the air cleaner in the shop just as soon as the video shuts off. Well, here we are. The outfeed table for the SawStop saw is essentially finished. Well, except for the finish. Well, let's go do that right now. The first step in finishing the outfeed table was to put some shellac on. I wanted to darken the MDF, so I mixed up this garnet shellac, which is a nice deep color. I wound up putting on 4 coats because the MDF soaks this up like a sponge. For the rest of the wood, for the birch, for the plywood, and for the walnut, I used this orange, or I call it amber color of shellac, and I put 2 coats of that, sanding between coats, on all the wood surfaces. You can see the difference in the colors there. After just 1 coat on this sample board, the shellac started to really darken the MDF and to smooth out and blend in the tones. You can see how much it darkened the finish. After applying the shellac, I went to General Finishes Seal-A-Cell Clear. This is basically a wipe-on varnish. I put on 2 coats and I did not sand between those coats. After I was done with this, I then went to their Armor Seal product. I put on 3 coats of this. After the first and second coat, I used 4/0 steel wool to rub out the finish. I didn't rub out the final coat. Well, guess what? It's finished. The outfeed table for the SawStop saw is done. Let me give you a little tour around. The outfeed table has 4 drawers. The 3 drawers on the top all measure 10 3/4 inches wide and 27 inches deep on the inside. Plenty big enough for saw blades, also for the dado stack, brake cartridges, and other accessories for the saw. This large drawer on the bottom is a whopping 40 inches wide, a little over 40 inches, and the depth also is 27 inches. So this is perfect for a sled. I was really pleased that this birch plywood and the birch that I used for the face frame came out almost exactly the same color, and the walnut finished up real pretty, and it feels nice too. Let's take a look around the back of the unit. These shelves are going to be very nice. I'm going to put glue and glue up tools on these shelves because I'm also going to use this as an assembly table in my shop. Well, let's move it over here into place by the saw now, and we'll get an idea of how it's going to look in use. Lock these wheels. My miter slot extensions are lined up with the miter slots in the saw, and looks pretty good. You know, there is one more aspect or feature of this outfeed table that I forgot to show you. Let's take a quick look. You know, every once in a while you may need to rip an extra long piece of wood. Because of the way the table is made with the overhang on both ends and on the saw side, you can actually turn the table sideways, butt it up to the saw, and you'll be able to safely rip a piece 12 feet long. Just like that. I was just looking at all the glue and glue up supplies I'm going to be able to put on those shelves in the back of the outfeed table. It looks like I'm going to free up an entire cabinet for additional storage. You know, this is going to be great. The outfeed table makes an already safer saw even safer. And it'll be great to have a dead flat work surface for assemblies and for glue ups. And the extra space with the drawers is going to be really helpful. You know, this has been a really fun project. I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed building it. Now, if you're interested, there's a link in the comment box that will direct you to Highland Woodworking's library, where you can download the measured drawings for this project. Now, the drawings are free, but remember, my sketching ability is, well, a little sketchy. So be gentle with your comments. Hey, I really appreciate you watching, and thank you so very much. Till next time. Hi, I'm Steve, your down-to-earth woodworker. Thank you so much for watching this video. You know, I'd love to hear from you, so please feel free to email me at downtoearthwoodworks@me.com. And for all your fine tool needs, please visit highlandwoodworking.com. And if you like what you've seen, I'd be thrilled and honored if you would subscribe to my channel. Thanks again. I look forward to seeing you in our next video.